Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I made a video talking about my cozy murder mystery novel that I've been working on. And if you could tell by the title, things haven't been going well. I've sort of stalled out. So in this video, I'd like to talk about why I've stalled out, what has been happening around that, and what I'm actually planning on doing to get out of that, and what I've actually been doing, but also what I'm going to do as next steps. So, if you're someone who is also stalled out on your writing, maybe some of this will be relatable to you, and maybe some of the strategies that I'm going to uh, suggest will help both of us. So, I hope this video is useful. So, I haven't moved my plot forward since August. That's not to say that I haven't worked on the novel, because I did take a really great course with the Sisters in Crime Guppy classes. It was called Love Your Voice. And it was a really great class. And I got a lot of great feedback on what I already had. And I made some revisions based on that and took a lot of notes and did the exercises. But in terms of like continuing on with my draft, I haven't done any of that. There's a lot of reasons for that, actually. Some are valid reasons, some are probably not as valid, but they feel valid to me. First and foremost, I'm back to work full time. I had a lot more time to work on the novel and had a lot more energy, time, and creativity during the summer break. But now I'm back to teaching full time. I'm a special education teacher in a high school, and it's been very demanding this year. And I might actually make some videos talking about special education and sort of my experience for it and things to help other parents who have kids in the system and what they sort of need to know to kind of like demystify the process a bit. So if you're actually interested in any videos about my life as a teacher and about special education, let me know if that's something you'd be interested in, and I will work on making those kind of videos. But as a result, I'm getting up very early in the morning because I have a commute that's an hour both ways. I'm getting to work about an hour to 45 minutes before the workday even starts and getting a head start on the day. I have a 20-minute lunch and I am working through lunch. Sometimes I don't even get to eat my lunch, or I'm eating while I'm working at the same time. I can get to the end of the day and realized I haven't even used the bathroom at all day. And then I have to like be like, oh, I should probably do that. And then I have one prep period a day, which I continue to do more work on. And sometimes I don't even get the prep period if I'm in a meeting during that time. And then I take my commute home and I sit down and I do more work while my sons are doing their homework. And then it's just sort of like nighttime activities. So by the time I could sit down to write, I'm pretty exhausted at that point and just sort of tapped out. And I've been dealing with a lot of like work related stress and anxiety. So that really kind of messes with my ability to be creative because I'm spending all of my brain power at work because it's cognitively demanding and I have to bring a lot of my own creativity to that because it's my full-time job and it's important. So by the time I get home and unwind, I'm sort of like tapped out of those reserves and I can really only give my attention to things that don't take a lot of brain power or things that are going to help me wind down, like yoga or knitting or listening to a podcast. So that's one area where it is valid. At the same time, though, I have weekends and there are times where I set my alarm. I'm getting up at the same time every day and I will sit down to write. I will have every intention to write before I go off to yoga class. I'm setting aside like at least an hour, which is a good chunk of time. And I'm just feeling like so much anxiety in my body that I wasn't feeling over the summer when I was writing. I could just sort of jump into it. And I knew that the writing wasn't great, that it was just a first draft, that all first drafts are not the best. But now I'm just finding that there's just like a lot of tension. I'm feeling like a lot of physical discomfort and anxiety in my body, like my heart is racing, and I will get up and do pretty much anything other than write, or I will actually force myself to stay seated and I'll start writing, and then I will end up going down like research rabbit holes. Like, for example, I'll be thinking about, naming something and I'll want to like research like the perfect name for that. Or I'll be thinking about a specific setting location and then I'm researching that specific location instead of just making a note for myself and like moving forward with the actual plot and the characters. I'll just go down these research rabbit holes instead because that's easier, right? It's just easier to stop what you're doing and start looking up things rather than actually being able to put words on a page. So the anxiety that I'm feeling is really like blocking my ability right now. There's just like so much resistance and I don't really know where it's coming from. I mean, I have some ideas. I use my healthy coping skills that I've learned in therapy throughout the years. I remind myself that like everyone's first draft is crappy, that the magic of what we see in book comes from like a very extensive revision process and that I really need a first draft completed so I can get to that process and start making it better. But it's like, even though I'm rationalizing that to myself and trying to convince myself of that, my body is like, nope, I'm not going to listen to you. And part of that is just because I've had like a lifetime of struggles with perfectionism, and that has like haunted me throughout my life in very various ways. So even though like consciously I know that I shouldn't expect my first draft to be any good, I find that as I'm writing and as soon as I'm done writing and I read back what I have, my inner critic and my editor just tells me like, this is garbage, this is crap, like you're never going to be able to do this is terrible, which really isn't the nicest way to talk to myself first and foremost, but that's going to kill the joy of the process because I'm just going to, why would I want to sit down if my brain is just going to turn on me and be this bully that's sitting behind me, essentially reading over my shoulder and telling me that everything I'm doing sucks. If that was like real, you know what I mean? If like I had a real person standing behind me doing that all day, I wouldn't want to do that task. I want to get as far away as I could from that person as possible, but I cannot get away from myself. So I realized like I have to do a lot of work right now to like shift that mindset. And I don't think it's something that I can really do on my own anymore. Had a lot of therapy. I am going to go back into therapy actually for my work stress because I'm having a lot of physical symptoms around that as well with anxiety and depression because of just the demands and the pace that I feel like I can't keep up with. So I do feel like a lot of the stress that I'm dealing with is real and that's impacting my ability to be creative. But then all of these perfectionist tendencies that I have both at work and with my own creative pursuits is also really getting in the way and just creating this unnecessary challenge that I wish I wasn't dealing with. So I am going to be going back into therapy for that. So maybe that will spill over into my creative pursuits and help me. But also there's a couple of other things that I'm doing right now. There is a part of me that is slightly lost interest in my novel because of my ADHD. I still really love my novel. I want to write this novel. But at the same time, we're in October, it's spooky season. I'm reading all of these horror books. I'm reading horror short stories. I'm watching horror movies. And I'm like, you know what? What'd be cool is if I actually just practice the craft of writing by just writing some horror short stories. Like, why don't I do that? So I ended up signing up for Nightmare Fuel. It's a writing course by Autocrit. And I'm really enjoying it a lot. It's only a month long and we meet like every Monday at 6:00 for about an hour or so. And that time frame actually worked perfectly for me. And then there's also coursework within the Autocrit website. So there's like all of these different modules that have hours and hours of content and it's really good. And there's exercises that you can do and the instructor is really kind and available. So whenever you do an exercise or you have questions or if you have written something, you can send it off to him. His name is Gareth. He will get back to you and like answer your questions and give you feedback, which is really helpful. So I have actually been making my way. I am on top of, not behind in the content right now. And I have been doing the exercises and I just sent off something to him this afternoon that I'm looking forward to just hearing his thoughts on because I just have a particular question about one of the exercises and shared with him what I wrote for that. So we'll see. But at least I feel like that's an enjoyable experience. And I was feeling a little bit of like some guilt and shame around that because I feel like I do sign up for courses a lot because I love learning. But then I'll feel like, well, why are you spending this money or this time on writing courses if you're actually never going to do anything with it? If you haven't written anything from start to finish, why do you continue taking these courses? And I brought that up to some of my friends and one of my friends, and I know you're probably watching this video, so thank you so much. You are the best. She just reminded me like, this is enrichment. I'm doing this for personal enrichment, and I don't have to necessarily do anything with it right now or anytime in the near future. It's just for my own personal fulfillment and growth. And I think that's really true. I don't think any of this is really going to waste. Like, I'm learning a lot. I am doing the exercises. I'm trying to practice. I know it will help me grow as a writer, to learn these different skills and to understand more about the craft of writing from a writer's perspective, and not from my like English major perspective of like analyzing it, but actually being able to do it. It is really helpful, but also it's just fun. Like, I have a really stressful job, and it's nice to just listen to this content, do these exercises, show up at these group meetings, and interact with other people who are trying to do the same thing, who have really awesome questions or really great ideas. And we're just talking about our love of horror. I feel like that's just a positive outlet. Other people have other hobbies. If I want to enjoy my free time by hanging out with other people who are writing and trying to just improve in certain areas, there's really no shame in that. So I am enjoying that. I am hoping and setting a goal for myself that by the end of the Nightmare Fuel course that I will have completed one draft. That's not say a finished, completed, beautiful, revised draft of a short story, but just one short story from start to finish, completed by the end of the course, that I will have turned in for feedback, not a partial, not just like, hey, here's the first part of this leading up to the inciting incident. No, I think it's doable. I think it's perfectly reasonable to try to write a story from beginning to end. So that's the goal I'm setting for myself. I have probably like 2 or 3 more weeks left. I think it officially ends on Halloween. I have a little bit of time because the course just started this past Monday. So it wasn't like a full month. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that I signed up for, because I was just, the internet is always watching us. And I was starting to see on Instagram a lot. And a lot of times, like, I just keep it scrolling, but this ad was actually like very interesting to me. It was like very well done. And it's by Monica Hay, and she is doing a boot camp, and the boot camp is called Overcome Writers Resistance Boot Camp. It is a live boot camp. It is from October 18th to the 21st. I cannot attend live because I will be at work. It's like 12 Eastern Standard Time. It doesn't matter though, because she records everything, and you can send her off your questions ahead of time to be answered. And there's also a Facebook group that goes along with that I could just check into when it suits me. But then I have access to all those recordings. And basically what got me is that all of her video ads were of her talking about her experiences with resistance to writing, which are very similar to mine, where like you go to sit down to write, but instead of sitting down and writing, you'll get up and like clean your whole house or binge watch Netflix or anything else other than writing, and just the pain and embarrassment of going through that because you really want to do it. I'm just summarizing it, but the ads are really good and tempting. I signed up, and it was actually extremely affordable. And I am curious to see, like, how were they able to move forward? Because their experience was similar to mine, and now they're writing and publishing and doing things. So I think I could benefit from someone else's knowledge on how they were able to do it. And it doesn't seem like they just have like one strategy, one solution, and they go beyond just the simple, like, set a timer for yourself for 10 minutes, which everybody, all the courses I take say that, but it doesn't matter. I can literally sit in the chair for an hour now and really not get anything done and not be productive with that time. And it can be hard for me to parse out like how much of this is resistance, which is definitely a big part of it, and how much of this is my ADHD that gets in the way when I get distracted and feel like I need to follow this path in order to research something and figure it out in order to move forward, which is just my brain concocting more things to just get me off task. And it's just another way that resistance is showing up, but it's kind of like tag teaming with my ADHD, if that makes sense. So it's like my resistance and my ADHD come together, and they're like, let's distract her from doing what she really wants to do because we're feeling uncomfortable and want to save her from the embarrassment of everything. That's just really sad, because I feel like this is something that I've really wanted to do for a very, very long time, even since childhood, when I would write like little stories here and there, and just to never be able to be consistent or stick with it, and then go years between writing. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm not really progressing then because I'm taking all of this gap time. And then it makes sense why I would want to jump back into writing courses again, because I feel like I've lost everything that I had learned previously because I've gone years without doing it because I gave up and I was like, well, what is the point? But I really don't want to do that anymore. So I'm really like dedicated to figuring this out and moving forward and doing whatever it takes. And maybe just sitting here in front of this camera and talking about this and sharing my journey and the courses that I'm taking. And I will update you when I'm done with these courses and let you know how it went and what I've gotten out of it. I know I'm going to get there. Am I going to finish my novel by the end of the school year? I don't think I am. And I think that's okay because I can always, use summer vacation and really like crank it out then based on all of the things that I'm doing to kind of prepare me for that. And it's not like I'm completely walking away from this novel because I still write down notes and ideas and outline plot and things like that, write down things about my characters so that when I am ready to go, I have something to work with. So it's not like I'm just sitting here thinking about it from time to time, like, oh yeah, that novel. I will actually write things down and be thinking about it and taking notes here and there. I'm not just completely hands off, but I'm really hoping that by the end of October, I'll have that short story done and then figure out where I want to go from there with. If I really like the experience of writing short stories, maybe I'll just continue doing that. There's nothing wrong with that and switching gears, but I do actually really believe in my novel story. It means a lot to me, so I do feel like that is something I eventually want to get back to, but maybe in November I'll be ready to use some of the strategies that I'm going to learn this month and apply them and at least be able to make some progress here and there, even if I only write a chapter a month or whatever, which, isn't the best, but it's better than what I'm doing now, which is pretty much nothing. And I tell my students all the time when they're in similar situations, they're feeling a lot of resistance to homework and they're just seeing their to-do list pile up, doesn't make them want to tackle it anymore. And then it's what should we prioritize? Or can you just do this amount, this small thing? That's good enough. And a lot of times they'll say, well, but it's not good enough because I didn't get to all of these other things. But you were going to take a 0 anyway, if that makes sense. So at least do these things and get some points and some credit just to kind of build that up. I'm trying to like practice what I preach, I guess, instead of just being like, well, if I can't do it perfectly, if I can't do it right, if I can't write this amount in a month or write this many chapters, then I might as well just not do it at all. No, anything counts. If I only write 500 words for a whole entire week, one chapter for a whole month, that's better than of not doing it at all. And by the time I have summer vacation again or, breaks in between, if I feel ready for that, then I'll have the time to do that. I am a little bit sad that I'm making this video and I don't have positive news in terms of like, oh yeah, I managed to like get this much done and like this is how awesome it's going. I'm just gonna really try to have faith and trust the journey and trust myself enough and love myself enough to just not give up like I did in the past. Even if that just means taking more courses or hiring a writing coach if I have to for the accountability, or really, I've tried finding some writing accountability groups in my area. There really isn't a lot, but if I have to find a virtual one, I could do that. There's so many options here, so I don't have to just give up, and I'm glad that I'm not going to. I'm going to just keep showing up and giving you a monthly update, and I will get there sooner than later. I have to realize it's a marathon and not a sprint. Sometimes I get really upset with myself that I don't make the goal progress that I would like to make. Like I had set up for myself that I was going to have my rough draft completed by the end of summer break. And I only got 3 chapters done. And I have to accept that I'm not going to move as fast as other people who are able to write a story in a year. And I mean that from the first draft all the way to as many revisions as they need to send that off to someone and feel like it's complete enough to query. So I just have to be okay with doing things at my own pace, but just not allowing myself to completely give up on the stream. I hope that this video is helpful. And if you can relate, leave me some comments. If you found ways that help yourself overcome resistance, leave them in the comments because I would love to know what you're doing to help yourself. And I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.